If someone told me last year that the most intense connection I'd ever feel would come from a random moment at a car wash, I'd have laughed. I mean, who meets someone at a self-service car wash, of all places? But that's where it started. It was a humid Saturday in August, the kind where even your sweat feels like it's sweating. I was just trying to rinse off the dust and pollen from my beat-up Honda Civic. Nothing fancy, just a quick clean to check off my weekend to-do list. The place was mostly empty, except for one other guy at the next bay over, hosing down a black Jeep that looked like it had just driven through a swamp. He was tall, athletic, with that casual mess of sun-kissed blonde hair and a backwards cap, tight white tank top, tan arms, a couple smudges of dirt down his side. I glanced over once, maybe twice, okay, maybe more than twice. That's when he looked up and caught me. I immediately looked away, acting like my tire needed extra attention. Typical me, spot a good-looking guy in short circuit. He probably got stared at all the time. Then he spoke. "Hey," he said, stepping halfway into my bay. "Mind if I borrow your foam brush when you're done?" I nodded, maybe too fast. "Yeah, sure, almost done." He grinned. "Appreciate it." It should have ended there. But after I handed the brush off, he leaned casually against the divider wall and said, "You live around here?" 10 minutes away. You?" "Couple blocks over," he said. "I'm Leo." "Evan." He offered his hand and I shook it. His grip was firm and he held it just long enough that it didn't feel like a drive-by gesture. "Nice to meet you, Evan." We chatted while he scrubbed the last of the mud off his Jeep. Just small stuff. How awful the humidity was. Gas prices. How there's never enough change for these machines. He was easy to talk to, which was rare for me. Before I left, he gave me this half smile and said, "Maybe I'll see you here again." And the weird thing is, I did. Same time, same place. The very next weekend. This time I said, "What, you stalking me now?" Leo smirked. "Maybe." That was how it started. The second time felt different. Leo wasn't just some guy the first pass to the car wash anymore. He was something else. Familiar now. Still effortlessly hot, still wearing that same backward cap, and worn-in tank top like it was just part of his skin. But now with the added edge of recognition, of something unspoken passing between us. "Jeep still dirty?" I asked, giving him a quick glance as I pulled into the bay next to him again. He looked over, smiling as he reached for a stack of quarters. "Nah, just an excuse." "An excuse to what?" "To see if you'd show up again." I felt the corner of my mouth twitch. I didn't know how to answer that, so I didn't. I just started rinsing my car while trying not to grin like an idiot. We didn't talk the entire time, just a few glances and nods, until we were both finishing up and standing by our cars, drying off side mirrors and bumpers. That's when he said, "There's a diner down the street, you hungry?" I hesitated, not because I didn't want to go, but because I wasn't sure what this was. "You asking because I look like I need a proper meal, or?" He tossed his towel into his trunk. "No. I'm asking because I want to sit across from you while we eat pancakes at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. Yin?" Pancakes. On a humid day. With a guy I'd just met last week. My heart said yes before my mouth caught up. "Yeah, all right." The diner was one of those places with cracked leather booths and a jukebox in the corner that hadn't worked in a decade. We slid into a booth by the window. Leo sat across from me, flipping the menu without really looking at it. "I already know what I want," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "That confident?" "Always." Our waitress came by, a tired-looking woman named Patty with a voice that sounded like she'd smoked through the talk 80s. Leo ordered chocolate chip pancakes and coffee. I got French toast, mostly to feel different. He talked a lot, but not in a bad way. He told me he worked part-time at a local construction company, did odd jobs on weekends, and was trying to save up for EMT school. Said he wasn't college smart, but he was good in emergencies. I told him about my job as a substitute teacher, how it was temporary, and how I still wasn't sure what I was doing with my life. Leo didn't judge. In fact, he seemed to get it more than most people. "You know what sucks?" he said, stabbing a piece of pancake. "Being told you're wasting time when you're just trying to figure your shit out." I nodded, chewing slowly. "Yeah, My dad still sends me job listings every other day. He snorted. Bet he's never stepped in a high school classroom since he graduated. Facts. The conversation turned into laughter, and somewhere between the syrup and the second round of coffee, it started to feel like something real. Afterward, we stood by our cars again in the car wash lot, the sky starting to cloud over like rain might be thinking about it. Leo leaned against his Jeep, arms crossed. "You free next Saturday?" I shrugged. "Probably." He nodded, like he expected that answer. "Cool. I'll be here either way." There was something in his voice that made it sound more like a promise than a maybe. I drove home that day with a tightness in my chest. I couldn't explain. Not anxiety. Not nerves. Something warmer. Something I didn't want to admit yet. I don't know what I was expecting that third Saturday, but I showed up early. Like, embarrassingly early. I even took the long way to the car wash so I wouldn't pull in too soon. Still, I ended up sitting in my car with the AC blasting, pretending to scroll my phone while watching every vehicle that turned into the lot. When Leo finally showed up, 10 minutes late, like he didn't have a single anxious bone in his body, he smiled when he saw me, like it didn't surprise him that I was already there. "Thought you'd be gone," he said, climbing out of his Jeep. "Yeah, well," I replied, trying to sound cool. "Had some stubborn bird crap to take care of." He laughed, and for some reason, that stupid laugh settled something in me. Like I could breathe again. "Forget washing today," he said after a second. "Come with me." I blinked. "Come with you where?" "Not a kidnapping," he grinned. "Just trust me." I hesitated for all of 3 seconds before nodding. "All right, but if I disappear, I'm haunting your Jeep." He laughed again and motioned for me to hop in. His Jeep smelled like sunscreen, old leather, and something faintly citrusy. The windows were down and music was playing low. Some classic rock band I didn't recognize, but that somehow fit him perfectly. We didn't talk for a while, just drove. The city turned into suburbs, then open road. I didn't ask where we were going. He didn't offer. Eventually, we pulled into this overgrown gravel lot near a park I didn't even know existed. Beyond it, a narrow trail snaked into a thick patch of trees. "You hike?" he asked, killing the engine. "I mean, I own sneakers," I said. "That's a start." We walked the trail in silence, the air thick and damp from the humidity. I watched him ahead of me, noticing how comfortable he looked out there. Shoulders relaxed, pace steady, like the world didn't weigh as heavy on him as it did on me. When we reached the top of a hill, there was this quiet clearing with a view of the river bending below. It wasn't anything dramatic, just trees and water and sky, but something about it hit different. Leo sat down in the grass, leaning back on his elbows. I followed. For a while, we just sat there, watching the sun trying to break through the clouds. The breeze picked up, and it was finally cool enough to feel like relief. "You ever feel like you're just waiting for your life to start?" I asked, not even planning to say it out loud. Leo didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Yeah, but sometimes I think maybe it's already started. We're just too in it to notice." I looked over at him. He was staring at the sky, his jaw tight, like the words had taken something out of him. "I used to think I'd have it figured out by now," I admitted. "Who I am, what I want." He turned his head toward me, his eyes serious for the first time since I met him. "And do you?" "No." That made him smile a little. "Same." There was a pause. The kind of pause that feels like it's filled with something bigger than words. His shoulder brushed mine lightly when he shifted, and I didn't move away. "I like hanging out with you," he said suddenly. "I like it too." That was all we said. We sat there until the clouds finally gave up and rain started falling. Not hard, just enough to feel it on your skin. We didn't run, didn't say anything, just sat there in the quiet, letting the moment do whatever it was doing to both of us. The rain didn't let up for a while. It wasn't a storm, Just that slow, steady drizzle that feels more like a hush than a warning. We stayed sitting in the grass, water soaking through our shirts, hair damp, the air between us charged but still. Leo didn't seem bothered. He tilted his face toward the sky, eyes closed, like he was letting it all hit him on purpose. I kept watching him, unsure if I was allowed to feel the way I did. Like this moment was ours, and it mattered, even if we hadn't defined it. Eventually, he opened his eyes and looked at me. He didn't smile this time. "You cold?" "Not really." "Liar," he muttered, then got up and held out a hand. I took it, and he pulled me to my feet like it was the most natural thing in the world. We jogged back to the Jeep, the trail muddy beneath our shoes, both of us slipping and laughing halfway down the hill. When we finally slammed the doors shut and looked at each other, wet hair, flushed cheeks, it felt like something had shifted again. Leo ran a hand through his soaked hair, then turned the key in the ignition. The Jeep sputtered to life, the vents blowing lukewarm air. "Back to civilization?" he asked. I nodded. We didn't speak much during the drive. The quiet didn't feel awkward, though. It felt like a continuation of something we were both still processing. When we got back to the car wash lot where my Civic was parked, I figured that would be the end of it. That we'd do the whole, "all right, see you around" thing and go back to our weekends. But Leo didn't say anything. He just sat there with the engine idling and his hands on the wheel. His eyes didn't meet mine. "You okay?" I asked. He inhaled, slow and deep, then exhaled like he was trying to push something out of his chest. "I don't usually do this." "Do what?" "This. Hang out. With people. Guys." I blinked. "Okay. I mean, I don't know what I am," he said quickly, like the words had teeth. "But I know I don't do this." I didn't say anything. I wanted to give him space to say what he needed to. He looked at me then. Finally. "There's something about you," he said, voice low. "Since the first time I saw you. You were just washing your car. And I kept thinking, why the hell can't I stop looking at this guy?" I didn't breathe, and I thought it would pass. That maybe I was just lonely or bored or whatever. But it hasn't. And now we're sitting here after pancakes and hiking in the rain, and He trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm freaking out, man." I nodded slowly. "I get it." "Yeah?" "Yeah, I've been there, more times than I'd like to admit." He laughed softly, more like a release than amusement. "So, what now?" "I don't know. But I'm not in a rush to figure it all out." He looked at me again, more steady this time. "You want to hang out tomorrow?" "Sure, cool." Neither of us moved for a while. It was still raining. Still warm. Still quiet. Then, right before I opened the door to leave, he said my name. "Evan." "Yeah?" He paused. "You're kind of messing with my head." I gave him a small smile. "Right back at you." We didn't hang out the next day. He texted around noon, said something came up with work and he'd have to rain check. I told him it was fine, which was true, sort of. But I kept checking my phone for the rest of the day like a dumbass, hoping for a follow-up message that never came. By Monday, I'd convinced myself that maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. That maybe I misread what he said in the Jeep, or that the rain and the hike and the silence made it feel bigger than it was. Maybe he was having a moment. Maybe he regretted it. By Tuesday, I was irritated with myself for caring so much. But Wednesday night, he showed up. Unannounced. No text. No warning. I heard a knock at the door around 9:30 p.m. right as I was deciding whether to start a new Netflix show or just give up and go to bed. When I opened the door, he was standing there, hands in the pockets of his hoodie, hair still wet from what must have been a recent shower. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I replied, heart suddenly doing that dumb thing again. "Sorry for bailing Sunday." I stepped aside and let him in. "You could have texted." "I know," he said. I didn't know what to say. He sat on the edge of the couch like he wasn't sure he had permission to make himself comfortable, which was weirdly unlike him. Leo was always at ease. He took up space like someone who never doubted he had a right to it. But tonight, he was fidgety. I kept thinking about what I said in the Jeep, he started, staring at the floor. And I felt stupid. Why? He exhaled hard. Because I'm not good at this. I don't have the language for it. I don't even know what it is. I sat beside him but didn't say anything yet. He looked at me, his expression softer than I'd seen it. I like you, Evan. Not in a bro way. Not in a we should hang kind of way. It's more than that, and I don't know what to do with it. That silence crept in again. But it was different now. Less awkward, more like something delicate hanging between us. I reached over and touched his knee lightly. He didn't move away. I don't need you to define it right now, I said. But I need to know you're not going to disappear on me. His eyes met mine. I won't. Promise? He nodded. I promise. We sat there for a while, not touching beyond that, just sharing the space like it meant something. And it did. It meant more than I could admit out loud just yet. Eventually, he leaned back against the couch, and I did the same. Our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved. He turned his head, and when our eyes met again, it was different. Like whatever tension had been stretching between us for days had finally snapped. Or maybe it had softened. He leaned in slowly, so slowly I could have stopped him a dozen times. I didn't. His lips brushed mine, hesitant but sure, like he was testing the waters of something he'd never let himself touch before. I kissed him back, gentle, brief, barely more than a breath, but it was enough. When we pulled back, he looked at me with this stunned expression, like he hadn't expected to feel what he just felt. Okay, he whispered. Yeah, I'm definitely freaking out. I smiled. Me too. But for the first time in days, I wasn't confused anymore. After that night, something shifted between us, not dramatically. Not like we suddenly knew what we were doing. But the air was different. Lighter. Closer. Like we'd stepped through a doorway that neither of us could, or wanted to, close again. He didn't stay over. He left just before midnight, his hoodie damp from the mist outside, and his goodbye a quiet, uncertain, see you soon. But the next morning, he texted, "You free after work?" That became our thing. Evenings spent in my apartment, or at his place, or just driving around aimlessly with music low and windows down. We didn't label anything. We didn't talk about what this was. But we didn't have to. One Friday, I found myself sitting cross-legged on his bedroom floor, eating leftover Chinese food out of the carton while Leah was sprawled on the bed scrolling his phone. He looked relaxed, sockless, hair a mess, legs draped across the mattress like he owned the world. I was thinking, he said suddenly, setting his phone down. Dangerous, I teased. He smirked. Very. But hear me out. What if we took a weekend trip? I looked up. Where? I don't know. Beach, mountains, whatever. Just get out of here. I paused. Like a couple's getaway? His expression faltered, just for a split second. I didn't mean it like, unless that's... Shit, never mind. No, it's not that, I said quickly. I just didn't think you were ready to call it that. He sat up, arms resting on his knees. I don't know what I'm calling it. I just know that when I think about spending a weekend somewhere, I think about you being there. That hit harder than I expected. I nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. He grinned, relief flickering across his face. Yeah? Yeah. We picked a beach 2 hours away, rented a cheap Airbnb with creaky floors and sand in the corners, nothing fancy, just us, a cooler full of cheap beer, and 2 nights without the noise of everything else. It was during that trip that the silence between us became something more. Not just comfort, but depth. A kind of knowing that didn't need to be explained. We lay on the sand one night, stars overhead, his fingers grazing mine. I used to be scared of this, he said. Still am, I guess. This? Liking someone like you? I didn't flinch. Yeah, I said. I get that. You make it feel easy. I looked over at him. His eyes were fixed on the sky, but his hand found mine again, this time with more certainty. You make it feel worth it, I whispered. He didn't reply, but his fingers tightened around mine, and that said more than words ever could. The weekend trip was one of those rare moments in life that felt untouched by the world. We came back sunburnt, sore, and somehow closer than we'd been before. But reality waited, as it always does. Leo had a full schedule with his construction job, and I was starting a long-term sub-position at a high school across town. The time we had shrank back into texts and brief meetups, take-out dinners on my couch, a kiss in the car before he dropped me off. But what changed wasn't time. It was how people started noticing. One night, we went to this local bar. Nothing special, just pool tables, beer, and music that was always 2 decades behind. Leo's friends were there, guys I hadn't met before. He introduced me casually, just as Evan. No label, no explanation. At first, I didn't mind. I understood the hesitation. I knew what it felt like to be unsure of your place in the world. But then one of the guys, Josh, leaned in while Leo was getting drinks and asked, "So are you two just roommates or something?" I blinked. "No, we're not roommates." He smirked like he knew something I didn't. "Ah, got it." Later that night, Leo avoided me in little ways. Subtle, but not invisible. He laughed louder with the guys, leaned into jokes, didn't come back to my side of the bar for a while. When I left early, he didn't follow. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, he showed up at my door, quiet, hoodie pulled over his head. "I screwed up," he said. "I didn't open the door all the way. You think? Around them, I forget how to be. And then I start thinking about what they'd say, what they'd assume, and it gets in my head." "So what am I?" I asked. "Your weekend getaway? Your secret?" He looked pained. "You're not a secret. I just don't know how to do this out loud yet." I stepped aside, let him in. He sat down on the couch, hunched over like the words were too heavy to carry. "I want this," he said. "I want you. But I've spent my whole life pretending I didn't." I sat beside him, not touching him yet. "I get that. But I'm not going to be something you only acknowledge in private. I've done that before. It hurts." His eyes met mine, tired but honest. "I know. I don't want to hurt you." "Then don't." He leaned in slowly, forehead touching mine. "I'm trying, Evan. I really am. I know. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't a promise. But it was the truth. And for now, that was enough." After that night, things didn't magically fall into place. Leo didn't suddenly start holding my hand in public or introducing me as his boyfriend. But there was a difference in how he looked at me, in how he stayed closer at gatherings, touched my back when he passed behind me, let his eyes linger longer than he used to. He was trying. I could see it in every small shift. The next real turning point happened at a backyard barbecue. His friend group again, a mix of easygoing guys and the kind who always joked just a little too hard. I was nervous about being there, and Leo knew it, but I didn't want to be the one who bailed. Not again. We stood around the grill, sipping beers and dodging the smoke. "So Evan," one of the guys asked, "you and Leo still doing car washes together?" There was a chuckle around the circle. I smiled, tight-lipped, ready to brush it off. But Leo didn't laugh. He stepped a little closer to me. Not touching, but close enough that I felt it. "Yeah," he said, voice steady. "We do a lot together." Something about the way he said it made everyone pause. The subject shifted fast, but the moment sat between us like a quiet declaration. Later, as the crowd thinned and the fire pit burned low, I found Leo sitting alone on a lawn chair, nursing the last of his drink. I sat beside him. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. I wanted to say more. I didn't know how. "You said enough." He looked at me then, really looked like he had the first time we met. "Do you ever think maybe this us just found the wrong time?" "No," I said. "I think it found us exactly when we were finally ready for it." He exhaled, the tension in his shoulders finally letting go. "I don't have it all figured out," he said. "But I know I want to keep figuring it out with you." That was the closest either of us had come to saying it. So I said it for both of us. "I'm falling for you, Leo." He stared at me like he wasn't sure he'd heard right. Then his hand found mine in the dark, fingers threading through without hesitation. "Yeah," he whispered. "Me too."